say, then you forget.
Yeah, I'm trying not to type.
So yeah, that's like my initial thoughts around how you could, because I imagine there's probably lots of literature that you can read, like things that people have written about the process before. So I would collect all as much as you can around that, and then I would do some primary research with people. This is all not in your well, what you were saying, your proposal is this is your plan to do that, to talk to these people, but you don't have to do it yet.
Oh, it's a good chance for me to get more information from Kelly, my flatmate.
Yeah.
Because we're going to Queenstown this weekend.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah,
we
that would
spent
be
like
cool.
3 days together. So I'll yeah, and she's so lovely. She's like really wanting to help. And she mentioned to me so many times she want to talk to my boss. And I just said, because I know who he is, I know what he does. So I just said, nah, it's fine. Like, he will never change. There's no point for me to drag you into the situation. Like, yeah. So
it's so hard, isn't it? Because, and that's what your colleague has been saying, like it's a pattern. So then that's really tricky, because it's like, yeah, obviously he's not changing and he's not learning from that pattern.
And from what my colleague told me, that I thought another side of work bully is the age. The age of the group. Like, my boss keeps saying that he was an intern in T&D before I was even born. And then he was like doing all sorts of things, like, when there was no computer. I know, yeah. He's like 50 something.
Right.
But he's not open-minded. But he's like really stuck with what he think is good. Like, he doesn't like job shadows. So all the website that we design cannot have job shadows.
That's really funny.
It's really like, it's not, the website's not for you, it's for the client. We do what's the best for the client, for the brand, not for you. Not don't like job shadows.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, he'll always point it out. I don't know about that job shadow sort of thing.
That's so
So I
funny.
think age is also can be another way why work bullying is happening, because maybe back to his days.
Yeah, it makes me think as well, though, whether this is just like focused on all industries, or whether you focus your problem on the creative industries. Because the thing that you've identified is specific in the sense that it's around taste, like almost like personal taste, actually.
Yeah.
And there's been, or there's been a bit written about how those sort of design agencies, like, and designers within them, like uphold an idea of what good design is.
Yeah.
And so, and that can become part of that, part of bullying, I suppose, or part of that. It's very interesting, and I imagine it happens in other creative industries too, in the sense that if you're more junior, then there's a type of design that the company does, or that's led by the senior people, that you're supposed to conform to. Or like in it's not like supposed to, like, officially, but it's like all the time kind of unspoken that you're supposed to. And I think that's interesting in the sense that in other industries it will be around, but maybe those things happen in other industries too. It's just not around taste. It might be around, say if you're a builder,
Yeah.
then, and like the owner of the company was like not a good manager. It might be
Yeah.
around the way you do things, I suppose, not
Yeah.
meeting
Yeah.
their expectations. So maybe it is general. But the example of design and the creative industries is interesting.
Yeah.
So
It's
maybe have
really
a,
clear to about personal taste in the
yeah.
design industry. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really impacts on your job and whether you feel like you can do a good job or not.
Yeah. It does.
Um,
Yeah.
so I guess from the first slide, I know you've got social media in there, but I think you should take that out because I
Mhm.
think you should do the research with people before
Mhm.
you before you come to a possible solution.
Yeah.
So I think you should say, I don't know, uh, might something like exploring, yeah, and it's not even solutions, is it? It's like interventions to address workplace bullying or something like that. Like have a think about the wording, because I think in
Mhm.
your proposal, essentially
Mm.
what you're saying is you want to explore the problem of workplace bullying.
Mhm.
Because I think you should do that research with people and identify, okay, what are the areas, um so I would say it's almost like a map. So you've got those stakeholders, like the HR
Mhm.
person, the manager,
Mhm.
and the employee. So you've got those three. And from each of those, I think you could come up with some like problem areas, like things that
Yeah.
are like the points of tension, and almost
Mm.
like map that on top somehow. And that will help you to identify, here is an interesting place where I imagine at some point there's a massive communication breakdown essentially between those three people. If there's
Yeah.
HR in your organization, which lots of places don't have, like small organizations. So that makes it
Yeah.
harder too. Um, and so then it might be, you might not find this, but then it would be like, okay, what in that moment could intervene in that communication breakdown before it happens? Like, and then it might be what you design is a tool to
Mm.
help managers and employees communicate.
Right. Right. Right.
And I'm not saying you need to go down that route, but
Yeah.
the problem might be elsewhere. That you might find the problem could be really helped by people talking about it, which is what you essentially are saying now. But when you talk to people, you might find other problems, other areas where you could intervene as a designer.
Mm.
So I would
Yeah.
say leave it in this proposal, you're really exploring the problem
Mhm.
and saying what you're going to do
Mhm.
to understand it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Okay. I'll do the interview. I'll ask Kelly today if she can help me to hook me up with the person that she was talking about before.
Mm.
And
Um, I know someone who I don't think it's like a conflict of interest. Um they went through this process at media design school quite a long time ago.
oh,
They were the
right.
librarian. Um,
Uh-huh.
so maybe I could put you in touch with her.
Thank you. That'll be
That would be
great.
cool.
Yeah.
Which yeah, and that was a case of a particular person. It wasn't necessarily the organization. I don't think the organization dealt with it well, but it
Oh, okay.
was it was a particular manager essentially.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, Um, and I guess there's a slight issue of confidentiality in terms of like people feeling safe to talk to you about it. Um, and you might want to like we can talk about this when you start to do the interviews, but I can send you a form where it's like an information sheet for the people you interview. So it talks about what your project is doing and what it will be used for and
Oh, thank you.
those sorts of things. Because then, and they sign it, and then it basically says that you won't use their name and all those kind of confidentiality stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
think
thank you.
that would be good for you for this project. Like with your friend, I would just talk to her informally now and say like this is what Sarah said, my like supervisor said I think that I should do. And just have a chat with her about the project.
Yeah.
And that's like
Yeah.
informal. And then when you get to a bit further on, like after you presented your proposal, then we'll get those sheets and think about who you're going to talk to.
Yeah.
I in some ways, I don't think it should, because it might be okay, you find some people who've been through the legal process, but then also you could just speak to some people who had some bad managers and like have
Oh,
experienced like workplace bullying.
yeah. Louise, one of my friends, she's nurse
Mm,
at Dunedin Hospital, and then I think about a month ago, I think so, she put
mm,
up an incident report as
wow.
well about her manager. Not her, I think it's one of her supervisor just
Mm,
kind of shamed her in front of a lot of people in front of patient as well.
God.
And then that came down to, she told me there was what she thought was a male,
Mm,
middle age with power.
mm,
That's what what she'd been through. So she could be one of my
yeah. Yeah, that
people
would
as
be
well.
interesting. You know, it's going to be interesting when you talk to people because the person that I'm thinking of is also female and the manager was male. So it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting whether that emerges as a pattern. And it will be good actually to speak to some male people who've experienced bullying and as well, because I think yeah, it will be interesting in that sense, like the way that gender kind of plays into it or not, and age. That's the thing, because you've identified already that there's some age, because it is to do with power dynamics. So I think you might unpick some of those kind of things around gender and age and race, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Because apparently that hospital talked to the guy,
mm,
but after they talked to him, he wouldn't talk to Louise again.
mm.
Like he would just walk away, but the problem
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
even
not,
like actually solved.
yeah,
Yeah.
it just makes it worse. That's the thing, like the process doesn't really work. Because once a
Yeah.
person knows there's a problem, it just makes the communication worse.
Yeah.
Unless they're really like adult about it and are able to talk to the person, which is what a good manager would do. But
Yeah.
probably because they're a pretty bad manager, they won't do that. So it's like,
I really wish that I can interview myself because
yeah.
so
But I
I
think
got the
there's
yeah.
a research method called autoethnography, which essentially means using yourself as the so
Oh,
I
right,
would
right.
so I would write almost like a little diary
Mm,
alongside you talking to other people. I would write a little diary or reflection of your experience and the
mm,
feelings that you had, because I think then
right.
that will also give, because other people will tell you how they felt, but not with it as much detail. And they'll talk about their experience, but they won't like with you because you're experiencing it, and to a certain extent you're in it. You'll be able to really think about that emotion. So I think it's like really helpful for the design essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I also wish myself could go through the legal process. It's just because my visa, I'm still on my work visa, so
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
want to get any trouble. Well, not it's not trouble.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. It just there's a lot of work to do before. So it's
Yeah.
like when I got the doctor note, it says Harper is not physically fit for the Friday, and she will take a day off work for the next 4 weeks. And then my boss trying to talk to me, put my Friday sick leave for a stress leave.
Mm.
So he doesn't want to pay me.
Oh, no.
It it's because the medical certificate says it's stress. So 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 I really wish I could go through the
Yeah.
legal process. So this is a really good experiences for work bullying because he just and then even my colleague tried to talk to him that it's a doctor note. It
Mm.
says sick leave. You should pay her.
Yeah.
But he was like his face was all red. He was like so pissed off.
Wow.
It doesn't listen to other people, sort of thing. He's trying to do this. I don't know. Maybe because I'm not from New Zealand. I'm not sure. Maybe
Mm.
he can scare me off with stuff. I'm
And
not
that's
sure.
well, he must know that you're on a work visa. It puts you in a vulnerable position. So as and even more so with cases where people maybe are if you think of people on like very temporary visas or refugees or people
Mm,
working on like people working illegally, but all those people
mm,
essentially it gives those managers so much power.
yeah, I
And
think
that's
he's
like when you read of stories of
yeah.
people being treated so awfully,
Mm,
um, without visas or on very temporary kind of visas.
mm, yeah. So it's a
So I think there's like tons of factors that link
mm,
to your problem, but I think
mm,
that's really interesting. So I think
mm,
I would say as your next step, I would do like an
mm,
initial mapping of where you think the problems are.
mm,
Because then and maybe even present that in these slides, because then what you're
mm,
thinking about is, oh, and then you're saying, okay, I'm going to talk to these people
mm,
and see what they see if what I have identified is um confirmed by what they say.
right.
um
Yeah.
do you want to show me the rest of what you've done?
Um.
I wonder if
Uh,
maybe now, because
yeah.
I've like made you kind of or take some out, you might need to change the name as well. Sorry.
That's all
Um,
good. Um. No, I just did some
this is all
research.
really good because it's like general research into the impact of it.
Mm. Um. There's not much about New Zealand though. The
Yeah,
most I searched are from America, and these are just also the general research.
yeah.
Because my idea before was to raise awareness
Mm.
for people. So, but I think that will change. But I would probably talk to,
I think I
um,
would in the problem statement you could mention that, because I think what you've identified is right. There's a lack of information, like visible information. Um, yeah, and so I think what you've identified is right. It's just um
to general.
whether, yeah, slightly more general, because then
Mm,
that will allow you room within the project to really tailor it to what you find.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, I think I would talk to Kelly over the weekend,
mm,
see what she says, because she must been through a lot of things like
yeah.
this.
And then you've got.
And that was just a social
Yeah.
media part, like why I think social media was good. Because my idea was like not to, because I reckon people, not all of them want to go through the legal process.
Yeah.
But I also want to know how to deal with people and know what their rights is. So I thought social media was a good platform to tell the information, sort of.
I think you could, what you could do in your proposal is you could take people through the problem and so your plan in terms of research, what you want to do. And then you could introduce them to your initial idea, which is around communication and visibility, because then you can get feedback about that. And I think that's good in terms of offering a possible solution that people can then comment on. So I wouldn't take this out completely. I would just frame it as a bigger problem. Say that this is the research you've done already. You're going to do more research around what the issues are. And then this is your initial solution that you're thinking of. But that obviously it would need to be confirmed by the research that you want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best thing to do.
Right. Yeah, I'll keep that.
That's
And
cool.
I will.
Okay. And that's the approach and the methodology. Okay. So the methodology, I can maybe send you some resources. It's more around like the design approach that you're going to take. And for me, this project, there's kind of two things that I think apply. Like in a sense, like it's a very human-centered design methodology. Like you're going to talk to people, you're going to think about the problem, and then address it in a way that, but there's also maybe I don't know if you know about transition design or like wicked problems, because in a way like work bullying is kind of a wicked problem in that it's multifaceted and very difficult to untangle like why it exists. And there's some tools for understanding wicked problems that I can send to you.
Oh, thank you.
Because and usually what you do is you'd map the wicked problem and you'd think about, okay, where are the points in which there's tension and there's lots of issues. And then you'd think in a wicked problem and approach or a transition design approach tends to think about a few different interventions rather than one solution. So the argument is if you intervene in a couple of places, you're more likely to make an impact than doing one thing. And whether you do that or not is kind of still to be decided. But I think it might be relevant to this project, that kind of approach.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to write it down because sometimes I forget if I don't. Okay, problem. Okay, hang on. Design methodologies. So human-centered design, transition design methods. Okay, I'll send you some of that.
Thank you.
Material.
Because I've thought about it and I feel like how to like what's the solution for work bullying? It's really blur because it's out of the air, and then it's like education and trainings or like anti-bullying policies, leadership development. What else I got? I think like support system and sort of staff, community support. That's things that I could think, yeah. And then I think I trapped because I work in a small company. So I think that's why I need to talk to Kelly as well, because she
Yeah.
is in a big organization that they have a lot of layers, a lot of things they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of trapped myself
But I think that's
within the
interesting
circle.
in itself, in that maybe, like, once you've done more research, maybe you identify small organizations for your intervention. Because
Mm,
if you don't have HR, who's the
mm,
impartial person that you go to? There's nobody. It's
yeah,
like, because at least with the HR, well, they're supposed to be impartial, even though sometimes they're not. But
yeah,
they have a duty that that's what they're supposed to do. Whereas
yeah.
in organizations with no HR, like, it's a nightmare. So I think maybe the challenges of your situation actually are something that could be interesting to address.
For small companies.
Yeah, like, what if
Yeah,
you set up a small organization of HR, like volunteers, that companies can have, like, they can connect with, and that's
mm,
like, and they can use those, it doesn't, I don't know how it would work, but it'll be a way of small organizations having some capacity for HR, like, advice.
yeah,
So I
right.
think probably the thing is, first of all, to, yeah, map all the problem, and then think
Mm,
about those possible solutions. And, like,
mm,
because the area of lack of visibility and awareness
mm,
is definitely a problem. Um,
mm,
but so is small organizations not having HR
yeah,
facilities. And so is, so
mm,
I would, yeah, map the problem first of all, talk about
mm,
the research that you're going to do, and then your initial idea.
yeah,
Um, and maybe even, if you, in your initial mapping of the problem, if there's a couple, like, another idea that you think might be interesting, maybe just show, like, a couple of ideas,
yeah,
because then that would also kind of demonstrate that you're open to the possibilities, that there might be
mm,
other solutions.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
cool. And then what else have you got?
I
Oh, these
think
are
I just,
sections. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
just research, planning,
Great.
things like that.
It's
Because
interesting
that
that
was,
you've got
yeah,
monitoring and evaluation in there. Like, would you, because that makes the projects, like, often with these final projects, the
mm,
final thing is the campaign. But in
mm,
your case, I think this is interesting. And so, like, if you were going to do this project,
mm,
would you like to launch the campaign in the middle of the project? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's really interesting, because then you
Because
get
I need
to,
to see the data.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And also, I think potentially then you could do one iteration in the middle, like one,
mm,
and then get the data, and then potentially do another if you wanted to,
yeah, yeah,
kind of
right,
making it more effective if you wanted. I like that
yeah,
approach. I think that's really cool. Um, and it means you can, because one of the other students, Claire, I don't know if you met her, she just
mm,
finished her final project, and she did a couple of iterations of her project, and it worked really well, because
mm,
you learn a lot from the first one, and it's, so I would say, yeah, that sounds great. So I would just include, like, you've got the research already, so just include those, like, I would call them stakeholder interviews,
mm,
that first stage.
mm,
Um, and yeah, I would, So in here, I would suggest like possible solutions, but yeah, I think you should just hold off on whether social media is the right kind of
Yeah.
tool. That's all.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's really good. I think it's great, and I think it's brave of you as well to do something that's so connected to your own experience at the moment.
I think that's even give me more like, don't know, more interaction to think about stuff.
Mm,
Like, because the other day I watched the TikTok, and then she was talking about how to talk to people, and then she
mm,
was like, never talk when somebody say if their loved ones passed away, you
mm,
never say that your loved one passed away when
mm.
like every individual experience is different.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because after I watched that TikTok, and I reminds me how my boss always talk about like his mum is sick, and um and when my granddad passed
Mm.
away, was that a month or 2 months ago?
Mm. Oh, I'm
And
sorry
he
about
keeps
that.
saying that, oh, that's, and he keeps saying that, hey Harper, I know you're going through some tough times, but
Mm.
I got my mom too. Like, I got my
Oh
mother
God,
too. Like,
how annoying.
yeah,
It's not a
like
competition.
he
No.
keeps saying, I know, right? Like, and then because I was a tutor at university,
Mm.
and he kept asked me to tutor his daughter.
That's really weird. It sounds like he's just a bit strange. Like, and no,
He's
like
really,
social, no, like social kind of
I don't know how.
skills.
And then he's like, oh, I figured why he want me to tutor his daughter is because like maybe she need when she do an internship and TND, she
Mm.
probably need a report.
Oh,
So that cannot under his like under her dad name.
oh yeah, that's true.
Dodgy, dodgy.
Do
Ask
that's
your
just
daughter to find another internship, not in
yeah,
TND. If you
that's
want
so
her
funny.
in TND, then you need to take the responsibility to put your name on it. Probably
Yeah,
school doesn't know. Probably Polytech doesn't know that she had her first interview, no, first internship in
yeah,
TND as
yeah,
well.
yeah, probably. Do it's so funny. It's
Yeah.
also a bit of a he probably didn't think of it like that, but it's also like a bit of a power play, like asking you to tutor his daughter. Like it's kind of not your responsibility, and
It's not,
if you were friends or something, it would be different, but you're not, so it's
yeah,
yeah.
and then he asked me to manage his daughter, and he pulled his daughter into my design and mucked it up, and then he got so angry at me. And just like
Oh no.
it's a whole messed up at work. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's tricky.
um so that's why I was like, work bullying, that's a good topic for me for my
Yeah.
master project. And it's like people must go through stuff like this as well, just really under the water. People doesn't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah, I think it's good. And I think your initial thoughts around it are really logical. It would be good just to stay open to the solutions.
mm,
Like, say, this is my initial thoughts, but I'm gonna do my research and with the stakeholders and see what I find.
yeah.
Um,
It
but
could be
yeah, that's
part
really
of
good.
what I do. It could be part of my design.
That's because
Yeah.
I wonder if it's like maybe it is social media, but also maybe there are little tools that's what you're communicating on on social media. So it's like very kind of yeah, like focused on like action or things they can do
Mm.
that people can do. And I think that would be really useful for people. Because that's another thing to think about is like when people experience workplace bullying, who do they talk to? So when you
Yeah.
speak to people, that's a good thing to ask them.
Mm.
And kind of where did you get advice or who did you go to?
Yeah.
Because I think often the problem as well is around there being no one to go to.
Yeah. Like,
Um,
yeah, because at the really first part of when I felt really down, I
mm,
wouldn't talk to my parents or my friends about it because I feel like people doesn't like they won't relate to my problem,
yeah,
and I don't want to let them like put their mood down as well. But until I couldn't hold it anymore,
yeah.
and
And
then
I
that's it.
think
Yeah.
there's always an anxiety that it's you, that it's just you, right? And that's part of the problem. I know the example that I talked about from MTS,
Mm.
that was really part of it. Because the person who is doing the bullying often makes it feel like it's just you. Yeah, it's your problem, right? It's
Yeah.
you as an employee, it's your problem. So
Yeah.
then it's very tricky to talk to other people because then you feel, oh, what if they think it's me as well?
Mm. Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
there's a real there's a vulnerability in talking about
Mm.
it. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
scary.
Right. It is.
And that's
Like.
why I think like for you documenting how you're feeling and
Mm.
maybe kind of reflecting on how you felt before is also really useful because I imagine that lots of other people will feel that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I wasn't like even trying not to talk to my colleague about my feelings at
Mm,
all. And then all of a sudden, like one day he came to me and he started to talk about like, how are you doing? Are you okay? That was after my granddad passed away. And
mm,
then I was like, oh, it's okay that I think just work gives me more pressure, like stress.
mm.
And then he started to tell me everything happened before. That is like he ever since he worked here, that he was full time, he left, he
Mm.
came back as a contractor.
Okay.
So he wouldn't work with him as a full time because he can't take it. And and then he
Wow.
said the reason he came back because he knew that my boss always have staffing issue.
Wow. That's
So
crazy. We
yeah,
always had stuff issues. So then you were like, oh, it's not me.
I know, like that opened me up a lot. And then he
Yeah.
started talking about, oh, there's three designers before you, and they all left
Wow.
because of the same problem.
That's
But
crazy.
no one did anything.
Mm,
And he did try to talk to him like, I think it's your problem that people are leaving.
mm,
And then my boss was like, he said my boss was like, didn't do anything, got really upset about stuff.
mm,
So that's the age and the personality as well.
mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. And it's interesting, like, because there are some, if we are thinking about visibility, say, there are some
Mm,
tools like in education, or at least I was thinking about the relationship between like students and lecturers. There's like rate my
mm.
lecturer or whatever, which is trying to do
Oh
that kind
yeah,
of make it visible kind of thing. Or on what's like Glassdoor, it has like the
yeah,
people's
yeah,
comments about the organization.
yeah,
So there are
mm.
some ways of like after you've left kind of writing like a scathing thing, but no one
I know.
really, but it's tricky because you just think, oh, as an outsider, you don't know who that person was or if they were good at their job or if the manager was bad or if the manager was good. So there's like a sense in which, um, yeah, those tools kind of don't really
There's
work in
a
a way.
there's a gray area with those tools that
Yeah.
like people. a lot of people doesn't bother to leave comments on it, and then people might doesn't check before they sign a contract or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's not
And
the best. I've thought about it.
I think your intervention is much better placed in trying to change the situation for people experiencing workplace bullying than it is trying to change the actions of managers.
Yeah, because we cannot change people.
Yeah. So I think maybe that's in your problem statement, it's more focused on how can we make life better for people who are experiencing workplace bullying, essentially, is what your general statement is. And even though, and then I think maybe you do have managers as your stakeholder interviews, but the focus is around how can you make life better for employees, not about their experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because also that justifies that you might speak to some managers who haven't experienced any of those, not the ones who are doing the bullying.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure if Kelly is a manager or not. I think she is. There's always a team leader, whatever.
Yeah.
I can ask her or Louise to find
Because I
someone.
think you can probably learn quite a bit from good managers in how they deal with difficult situations with employees. Like, I think, at least from my experience, lots of it is about keeping communication open and talking about anything that arises really early on.
I think it's about empathy.
Yeah.
With people.
Yeah,
But
definitely about
that's
empathy.
unfixable. It's not something that we can fix. And
No,
then
the only way to do it is to empathy. You can encourage people to have empathy by helping them to experience things from the other person's perspective.
right.
So you were doing design in terms of almost showing a story about someone from the outside, not someone in the organization, and getting people to reflect on that person's experience. And you can do that. So there are tools to encourage empathy. Whether they work with some people is debatable.
I'll dig into it.
Some people are just not able to empathize very well. So, so
They don't.
maybe that's the
case. Yeah.
But yeah,
That would
have
be
a
the
look at
special
that.
case, I think.
Yeah.
I think
But I
most
think,
people have empathy.
yeah, most people do. And most people are able to. The interesting thing is, most people find empathy easier when it's external. Rather, when they're in it, they find it harder to empathize, which is interesting. But yeah, I think the initial mapping, I think, will be really good because it will allow you to it's like a big brainstorm, really, of all the possible problems or all the moments and the stakeholders and everything. I think that'd be really helpful. So I'll send you those resources because I think that's probably the next thing to do. And maybe even with your friend, you guys could talk, do that together, or you could do it and then talk to her about it.
Yeah. I'll ask her, see what she says.
Yeah.
She's probably more than happy to help me. She's been really
Because I
lovely.
think that would be really good and then you've got, okay, these are all the problems that I've identified. I'm going to do this research with the stakeholders, see which ones are most apparent. And then And you say initially I had this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So, I think you're kind of almost ready. Like usually we have a presentation of the proposals, and I was gonna, Hermione is gonna be ready for next week, and Megan too, I think. And I think you'll be ready too.
I should be okay.
Yeah,
I just I'll
especially if
just
we
do
made
more over the
it,
weekend.
if
Yeah.
we made it on a maybe on a different date. I'll see when the others are available. When do
Yeah.
you, because you have Wednesdays working on this now. So next Wednesday
Yeah.
you're free. And
Yeah.
then, but the other days you're working.
Yeah.
Okay.
I try to go to work early and finish early.
Okay.
I can try to be home around 4:30.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah.
think we might, if it was next Wednesday, do you think you'd be ready?
Should be. I should be. For the
Yeah.
proposal,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
the proposal. Yeah. Okay. I'll speak to Megan and Hermione
Mm.
this afternoon and I'll let you know. I'll send you guys an email. Because I
Yeah.
think it'd be good just to do the proposals and then you can kind of get on with the work. Um,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that's good. And in the meantime, I'll send you the resources about method and methodology.
Thank you.
Cool.
And
I'll
I
send
will,
you the link to the
I'll,
recording
yeah,
as well.
thank you. I'll get more info over the weekend and get
Awesome.
myself head around. And then I should be ready by next Wednesday.
Yeah, I think you should be, especially if it's in that
Okay.
afternoon, because then
Yeah.
you have a bit of time to work on it on Wednesday as well. So the weekend on
Yeah.
Wednesday.
And then
Um,
if I got something new, then I'll show you.
Perfect. Yeah, just email
Yeah.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that sounds really good. And I don't think you need to come to the meeting this afternoon. Just work on your project.
Cool.
All right. Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Harper.
Sarah.
Nice to see
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.